Hello, Mark Red Larson here for the Dreamcatcher podcast. Thanks for joining us. Today, my guest is Septer Duang.
Yep.
From Hastings, Nebraska, and we just recently met at the Y very recently. So, and before I get too far, want to do a shout out to Blue Moon Restaurant Cafe downtown Hastings for letting us record this podcast episode, and also Bryant Books for helping also. So, if you haven't visited, both places are awesome. So Septer. What's your background? Native to Hastings?
Grew up in Hastings, but originally I'm from South Sudan, which is in East Africa.
Okay.
But when I had left, it was just Sudan, and then I think around 2011 or 12, it became South Sudan and Sudan.
Okay. Okay. So how did you? That's where you started from then.
Correct.
So what process? How did you get to Hastings, Nebraska, of all places?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. Being a refugee immigrant, we had kind of migrated quite a bit. So coming in, we were settled in Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay.
So that's where we had first kind of settled in. And then we had relatives in San Diego, California.
Awesome.
We had gone there shortly after. And then, with San Diego being one of the most expensive cities in the country, it wasn't ideal for a refugee immigrant family to settle down there. So
definitely expensive.
Yeah. So my family decided to relocate, and we settled in Nebraska, and been living here ever since, and settled in Omaha for several years.
So why did you choose Omaha?
Job opportunities for
my
family.
Okay.
For my parents at the time. And then same thing with Grand Island. Shortly after, it was another job opportunity. So every move has always been for a job opportunity for my parents. And we landed in Hastings, and it just made sense to be able to, for my parents to be able to settle here and raise their kids and the family here.
Awesome. So from where you started out to Hastings, I mean, it had to be a huge difference, I would think.
Oh yeah. So it was a huge culture shock from growing up in Sudan and what to be nowadays considered South Sudan. From the foods, the music, the culture, everything was just a complete 180.
Oh, I bet.
But have been able to make the adjustments to be able to survive in both places. So it's been quite the journey.
No, I bet. So in Hastings, what are you doing now?
So now I'm in Hastings now, and I'm actually shadowing to be a physical therapist within the next few years. And so I'm just working at a physical therapy clinic, and just learning as much as I can, and trying to fulfill my goal is to become a physical therapist.
So what took you on that journey? What got you in wanting to be doing that?
So athletics was always a big part of my upbringing, especially growing up as a kid. I was a basketball player, and I always knew that I wasn't going to play basketball forever. And so when I had started to look into personal training and things of that nature, I had thought that physical therapy would be a good route for me because I like helping people, and I want to see people get back to their daily lifestyle, daily habits, no matter what life throws at them, injuries, illnesses, whatever the case may be, being able to get everybody to get back to their day-to-day activities and lifestyles.
Yeah, because until you lose your health, you don't realize how it is the ultimate wealth, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing this?
I would say altogether 3 years. I had been living in Southern California for the past several years, or for the past few years, I should say. And while I was out there, I was a personal trainer, and I helped hundreds of clients be able to meet some of their fitness goals for various different reasons. I mean, some may be because they want to be on a vacation, some maybe they went through a breakup, whatever their motivation was to be able to kind of get back in shape. I was able to help them with that, and just be able to help them with the consistency of showing up and knowing that you aren't going to get to this goal overnight, that it was going to take some time.
Yeah. And that's something in this country we all want it right now. I mean, really want immediate results. And no. So, would you ever want to go back to Southern California? I mean, would you want to live there?
I mean, if it all works out, I mean, it really doesn't matter to me where I live, but it all just depends if the living situation makes sense, it's cost effective, and all those things, But it all just depends on, the job opportunity.
Right.
So it's just one of the main driving factors of where you're going to settle down.
Okay.
But I wouldn't mind it, but I'm not going to, hang my hat on moving back out to Southern California.
That's a good way to do it. So, one thing I always ask the guest on Dreamcatcher is, what were your dreams when you were a kid? You were a little boy.
When I was a younger kid, I always had dreams of being a professional basketball player.
Okay.
So I'd always thought that I'd make it to the NBA just like every other kid who has basketball aspirations. And as you get older, you start to go you start to put everything in realization and whatnot. And if one door closes, another door opens. So and as the older you get, you start to understand that you're never gonna probably do one particular thing forever. And so with me, understanding that, I've always thought about what would I do after outside of basketball. And so that's what's kind of got me to fall into my next passion as far as me.
Do you want to be a personal trainer for a sports team?
If the opportunity came across and it just made sense, I wouldn't mind it. But it all just depends on how the opportunity is presented and where am I at with life at that moment.
True. Yeah, that does make it different. So before we started the podcast, we were talking about you'd gone back to you're basically where you grew up.
Yeah.
And talk about a little bit about that. How was that going back after you'd been gone for a while?
Yeah. So my first visit back, it was quite different. And I didn't really know what to expect because when my family had migrated to the States, I was about 6 or 7 years old. So basically I grew up as an American kid. So going back over there, it was just like, okay, I had to reintroduce myself again. And because the culture norm and the culture shock was given to me again after 20 plus years.
I bet.
So I had a little bit of an accent, speaking my native tongue. So my native tongue is called Nuer. It's N-U-E-R is the spelling of that. And so to the elders and to everybody and to all the local natives that are from that area, I had an accent to them. But, when you're growing up as an American kid and your parents speak English and the native tongue, it's a lot easier to communicate with them that way because they understand you no matter what you say or what you say. So that was one of the biggest factors that I noticed when I first got out there. Through time, my pronunciation and language started to come back, and so I was able to speak and phrase the sentences in the right way to the local natives back home, and it just all kind of worked out. It all just kind of came back.
So when you went back, did they accept you, or did you mean right away or were you that American or whatever that?
Yeah, I mean, there's always some sort of stigma when you grow up in America, it's like, oh, well, you're spoiled, or you're a brat, or whatever the case may be. And so, a couple of things that I had and that I did when I was out there is I just kind of like threw myself back in the culture.
Sure.
We would. I'd swim in the lake with them. I drank some of the water that was there. Although, my body wasn't used to some of the stuff. Me just, throwing myself in the culture, not holding back, really gave the natives a chance to realize that, hey, although I've been gone for 20 plus years, I am still that same kid that left when I was 6, 7 years old.
Right.
And they started to kind of open up a lot more once they realized that, I am still one of them, although there's been that gap of about 20 plus years.
I mean, so we were talking about the water, and you said it kind of made you sick.
Yeah.
I mean, are they able to get clean drinking water where you're at?
Yeah, in some places, and some people obviously have good drinkable water. I mean, now there's markets, you can go get water bottles. You can get water delivered to your place, but for a vast majority of the population in the villages, it's harder for them to receive good, adequate drinking water. Now, if you're in the major cities, like when I flew in to East Africa, I flew into Addis Ababa, which is in Ethiopia, and there's no difference between there and America. Some of the top cities here, like New York or LA or Chicago or anything like that of that nature, they have the same things that you would see there. So, but it's just really the villages that you really start to see the decline of resources in that area.
So, I mean, we were talking about, is that something that, I mean, you were talking about you like to help people, what you do. Would that be something that going down the line you would like to do something like that to be able to help them?
Yeah. I had went with my cousin, and he was actually born here in America. I remember both of us flying back, and we were just, conversating and just realizing, hey, we're going to be able to go back, turn our showers on and let it run for 5 minutes or so, while some of these guys might have to use a bucket of water to shower in, or they're not going to be able to get clean drinking water. And it always has been something that from that moment when I seen what it was like living day to day, wanted to change or help out in some form of way. Now I know it's going to be a long journey, but once I get stable enough and in a position where I can give back, that would be a major project that I would like to work on with a team of some sort, to be able to kind of give back in that sense of giving everybody, giving the population, more of a population, a chance of clean drinking water.
Yeah, and I mean that's you have to have that really to have it to build on anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, my gosh, so where did you learn English? I mean, you speak so well. I mean, just from being over the United States, or?
Yeah. So, I mean, we moved around a lot when I was younger, but once we kind of got settled in out here in central Nebraska, in the Tri-City areas, that's kind of where I kind of started to develop my pronunciation and everything like that, speaking the English language. Earlier on, I was in ELL, which is a English language learner, or English like as your first language. It's a course that you are partaking when you're in high school. Now you can develop and graduate out of there, and so I was in that earlier on, and then throughout the years, I kind of just became better at pronouncing certain words and speaking, and just really interacting with my peers and everybody. Just
kind of every day thing. So your parents, did they come over to the United States because of the American dream, or just because of the work that was available? Or
No,
or did they,
we were in a refugee camp, and
really?
so you know, day to day stuff wasn't easy. So I think I don't know if you know this or not, but Sudan has, I think, recorded has the longest civil war in world history. If I'm
Did
not
not know
mistaken.
that. Wow.
But so there was a civil war going on during the time I was born in the '90s. I was born in '93, so during that time there was a civil war that kind of broke out and has been lasting since up until 2011 or 12 when the country
Wow.
finally gained their independence.
Okay.
So a lot of the citizens of South Sudan were relocated into um, certain different countries around the area.
Okay.
So it wasn't just for a job opportunity, but it was a relocation for a, a potential better lifestyle.
Okay. Wow. I mean, we have no clue what, I mean, how good we have it here in the United States. I mean, it's just, so, okay. So money were no object. What is something you'd want to do?
Uh, I mean, like I said, one of the biggest things is just to be able to, give everybody clean, adequate drinking water. I would be able to uh, give, more people a form of education, um, and really just those are really the two main things. If money wasn't, an issue, I would be able to kind of help others in that sense.
Okay. Okay. I know when we talked at the Y the other day, you were talking about how doctors in this country just kind of shove pills on a person.
Yeah.
So, how do you think in this country do we get more back to what kind of before we had all the pill pushers? I mean, how would you do that? I mean, I'm really most pills are against that, but I guess do you have any idea we could get back to with what you're doing with the personal trainer and stuff? How do we get back as a society in this country to what really is real health?
I mean that I don't think there's any one correct answer on that. I would say maybe just getting back into um, physical fitness, because I think physical fitness does more for an individual than just your physical appearance. I think a lot of times when people think of physical fitness, they're worried about their body and their physique.
Right.
And, I think over the years that I've been working out and training and things like that, I think it does a lot more than that for me. It actually sets my tone for my mindset.
Yeah.
If if I'm not being physically active, then now my mentality is a lot different.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm active, then my mindset is at a different stage. And so I think adding adequate physical fitness to your regular daily routine kind of help you with those sorts of things, with the aches and pains and whatnot. Now, when it comes to injuries that just happens because of life,
Right. Right.
there's nothing you can do about that. And I would just say, listen to your gut feelings, listen to your instincts. If you're prescribed a medicine and you're feeling any sort of side effects, reach
Yeah.
out to your physicians, reach out to your doctors, and let them know sooner than later.
Yes. Yes.
And I think that'd be one of the only ways that can kind of
Okay.
revert back from people kind of just being prescribed this and being
Yeah.
prescribed that. And there's nothing wrong with modern medicine, and I think it's came a long ways.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't say there's anything wrong with modern medicine, but I would just say as individuals and as like the clients, we've got to be able to speak up when we're feeling certain side effects that
Yes.
don't
Yes.
seem normal.
Yeah, definitely. So no, I mean we do. I just we talked about it. Ever like a podcast, or is there something like that where would you want to speak on stage?
I've thought about it. When I was younger, the stage wasn't the most comfortable place for me. But as I've kind of gotten older and in things, I don't think the stage really bothers me too much. I mean,
Awesome.
I think if you're speaking in front of a crowd, you're going to have some sort of nerves. You're going to have some
Oh
sort
yeah,
of
I know I do.
anxiety to that extent. But I think if you're truly passionate about what you're doing and what you're speaking on, then I don't think that you should be frightened about what you're speaking about if you're really passionate about what you're presenting.
So some people were because we were talking earlier that most people don't live their dreams,
Yeah.
but they exist. What advice would you give to somebody that is kind of sort of waking up and they really want to catch their dreams, but they don't know how to start? I mean, what direction would you tell somebody if they came up for advice on that, how to catch their dreams?
I mean, I would just say keep going. And I think, when you're going after a dream or you're going after a goal, you kind of have to be, I guess, quote unquote, some people may say delusional, because you are only delusional if it doesn't work. Now, if it works out, then it's like, oh, wow, oh my gosh, this guy's very optimistic. This guy was a dream chaser. There's all these things, So I think you kind of have to, believe in yourself, although you look very crazy to the rest of the world. But I think you kind of have to have a little bit of that shame, and you gotta be able to have a little bit of humility. I think oftentimes we look at humility as a bad thing, but instead of understanding that, hey, you know what? Although I may mess up, I may shoot a air ball.
Right.
You've got to be able to laugh at yourself and
Yes, very
and
important.
pick yourself up and go after it again. So I think just having a little bit of humility and being a little bit of delusion. And not to say that, hey, just be oblivious and not think that, there's not going to be barriers along the way. But I think you kind of have to be, you kind of have to have a mixture of those two things.
I think that's
to be able to make
very
it.
good advice. So you said you had siblings.
Mm-hmm.
Are they because you're pretty entrepreneurial? Are they entrepreneurial?
Some of them are. Some of them are. I mean, we're all different in our own ways.
Sure.
I mean, a lot of them were a lot better than I was in a classroom as a student. I guess I would just say I've always just kind of been, I guess, hard-headed. I mean, like if I have something stuck in my head and this is what I want to do, I'm going to stick to that. Although it might seem like I'm wasting my time or it might not work, so kind of back to that sense of, being delusional and accepting humility.
Yep.
And just kind of make sure of that. But yeah, some of them are for sure.
Well, so that is cool. So dreams, catching dreams. We heard what you wanted, but I mean, what are some dreams going forward that you would maybe? It's kind of the same question, but what are some dreams? Would you want to travel? Would you want to? I mean, with the water, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So would you open like a nonprofit or anything like that, or some anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, eventually, long down the road, I would like to have a team and an organization of members who would be on a mission to be able to help the world.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think providing most of the world with adequate water
Yes.
is in everybody's project. It's not just a project that one person can do themselves. I think that's a calling for everybody to be able to do.
I agree.
And so I think that's, the more brains you have in something, the more success you can have.
Yep.
And the more possibility that dream can be obtained. So along the road, I would like to, have a team and work with the team
Mm-hmm.
to be able to get certain projects, certain things done. and the water situation is huge, so that's kind of the
It is. Yeah, I mean, it very much is. So would you ever want to go back to Africa and live there for a while? Or would you just always want to kind of, or do you have the other place in the world you might want to?
Yeah, one of the things I do want to be able to travel, because I think, traveling opens up your mind, and it gives you realization that everywhere in the world is different. Even living in the United States, every state is different.
Oh yeah,
every city is different. So
true.
I think when you're able to get out of your comfort zone and you go see something else, you go see a different way of living, you go see a different form of lifestyle, it gets you out of your own little box that you're in, and then now you're able to see things from a different lens, and now you can start thinking outside the box, because what we may do here in Hastings, Grand Island may do something different.
True.
Kearney may do something
yes.
different. And so I think just being open to see a different form of life always will educate you and always give you a gratitude, appreciation in all forms of life.
Yes.
So I think traveling is huge, and learning how to adapt and accept those things is what really gets us to raise awareness of where we're at.
I would agree. I mean, I think if you haven't traveled, you have such a small view of what actually exists on this planet.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would have no idea where you grew up, what that would be like.
Mm-hmm.
You probably when you were growing up, did you think about the United States, or was that something you didn't even really cross your mind? Probably didn't.
No. I was so young at the time, and I just remember when my parents were gathering us up. So there was me and a few of my other siblings were born actually back in Africa. So when we were kind of gathering and getting ready to migrate here, it was a huge shock, because we're just like, where are we going? What are we doing? And then you get on the plane, and now you're crossing the Atlantic Ocean for a very long time.
Yes.
Yeah, and so we didn't know what to expect. We didn't know where we were going, but we just knew that we were going somewhere different.
I admire that. I mean, that takes courage. I mean, to go to a new place, and I admire it. I'm glad you did. Yeah. Our paths wouldn't cross.
Yeah.
And like we talked earlier, our paths cross for a reason.
Yeah.
So, and I look forward to everything that you're going to be doing. You have the heart to help people, and it definitely comes across. That's what I noticed at the Y. So I could just tell that your vibe has that you want to help. So, is there anything else you want to share today on the podcast?
Just the biggest thing is just like, if you have a dream, or if you have some goals that you want to be able to obtain, I think you've got to be able to step out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
And have a perspective that what may be normal to you may not be normal to somebody else, and
True.
Just realizing that there's different forms of life all over the world, and I think once you have that mindset that like, hey, once you give your best, that whatever happens and however things plan out, that you can live with that and everything will be all right.
Yes, that's a great way to end the podcast. Yeah. So, well, Septer, thank you for joining us on the Dreamcatcher podcast.
Yeah.
Look forward to talking to you in the future and getting to know you even better and seeing what you accomplished. I know it's going to be a lot. So, but on that, we'll end for the day, and have a good rest of your day, and take care.
Yeah, you too, Mark. Yep.